Hello. Look at that. Yeah, they kind of take over everything where they go. So I kind of had this idea, not really idea, this thought, especially with all this stuff that's been happening. And please excuse me, I'm gonna be doing a bunch of this because these bugs and gnats and whatnot, they're all over the place. But anyway, I'm back with another vlog with my trusty pocket here. I've been seeing a lot of content being created talking about AI, and I think it's actually a big concern for a lot of people because a lot of people are losing their jobs. People getting laid off, people just outright getting fired, companies are going out of business, things like that. And people are rightfully concerned about it. You have your people that are really optimistic about it, the people who really believe we're going to get into a situation where we have a utopia of some sort and everything's going to be taken care of, an age of abundance, and no one's going to have to want anything. You're going to be able to not have to have a regular job anymore, and you're going to do what your heart desires, all of that stuff. Everything sounds really good, right? And we have a situation here where you have a whole lot of people who are optimistic about it and a whole lot of people who are raising the alarms about it. And I think people raising the alarms, they have some legitimate points. And I know I have some of my own. You hear the people who are overly optimistic, they say things like, well, it's going to usher in a bunch of abundance and things like that. You're not going to have to work. Electricity is going to be, power is going to be so cheap, it's going to be damn near free. And, the people who are losing their jobs, they'll just find new jobs. This is just like any other, new technology that came into place. And I would argue that it's really not. We don't have, like when the Industrial Revolution came around and all these other revolutions, the printing press, things like that. Sure, people lost their jobs, but then, yes, there were other jobs that came in its place. Things entirely, new industries popped up. Yes, that's all true. But the difference between those technologies and today and AI can think. We've never had machines that can actually think and adapt and learn. And, if we reach the singularity, it may one day actually have wants, desires, and dreams of its own. We never had that situation. The robots in like auto factories, the big ass arms that are moving back and forth, they're doing one job. Yes, they are robotics. Yes, they replaced a bunch of jobs, but it's one job that they replace. That thing isn't going to wake up one day and say, you know what? I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. Or some programmer can't go into that machine and say, okay, I'm going to program you to be able to play basketball. You're going to be able to write. You're going to be able to draw. You're going to be able to make a whole Hollywood film. That's what AI can do. AI can do everything that we can do. Everything.
Yeah, but here's my point, though, in that, and this is why I think it's different. I think it's going to get, in no case in human history has the tool ever been smarter than the people that made it. I think this is going to be the case where the tools have become smarter than people that made it.
Hey, define smart.
Ability to do things, to reason, to think through things that are going to eclipse. Yeah, let's just go with IQ. I think AI eventually will have a higher IQ than any human ever that has lived before.
And when I say everything, I really mean everything. I've seen, videos with Boston Dynamics. Take Tesla out of it for a second. Let's talk about Boston Dynamics. Like, these guys have made machines that are, in the shapes of dogs, snakes, insects, things like that. And I'm not sure if it was Boston Dynamics, but I've seen an AI company do a robot that can do gymnastics. I mean, they're robots that can dance now. Can you imagine, I don't know, a toaster waking up and being reprogrammed to now be Beyonce's backstage dancer, background dancer? I mean, that's what AI can do if given the tools necessary to do it. And now AI can write its own code. Well, it's been doing that. So I just don't understand some of the people who are so optimistic about it. I greatly appreciate their optimism because we do need some optimism. Let's be honest here. But You can't be so honest, so optimistic that you stop being honest. These people who are so optimistic, they know for a fact that a lot of people are going to suffer from AI because AI is going to be able to do everything. Everything. There's only but so many jobs that can go around after a while. So I just don't understand why they don't take into account. Like, you have a lot of podcasts right now that are talking about this. And it's funny because they're all coming out around the same time, which tells me there are some things going on that we don't, as the general population, that we're not really privy to. And that actually kind of scares me. You know what actually scared me? I'll just give you guys a story really quick. What scared me was when, I think it was Facebook, where they were building their AIs, and their AIs began to talk to each other in a different language that the AI scientists didn't understand and didn't know, and they started doing things to the point where Facebook or Meta had to pull the plug, had to shut it down because they didn't know what the hell it was doing. I mean, you have CEOs like the one from Jensen from NVIDIA says they can't design certain chipsets anymore without AI. That's a bad thing, in my opinion, because we're giving too much power to artificial intelligence. And there are some estimates that the IQ level of artificial intelligence is going to be like at 1600, when Einstein was estimated to be at, what was it, 160? I don't know, it was high. But 1600 IQ? What do you, I don't know. You can't really imagine what kind of stuff it'll come up with at that point.
The problem is China's best interests are not the same as America's best interests.
That was my fear. Absolutely. So in my writing, I write about what I call the three inevitables. At the end of the book, they become the four inevitables. But the third inevitable is bad things will happen, right? If you assume that the machines will be 1 billion times smarter, the second inevitable is they will become significantly smarter than us. Let's put this in perspective. ChatGPT today, if simulate IQ, has an IQ of 155. Okay, Einstein is 160. Smartest human on the planet is 210, if I remember correctly, or 208 or something like that. Doesn't matter, But we're matching Einstein with a machine that I will tell you openly, AI experts are saying this is just the very, very, very top of the tip of the iceberg, right? ChatGPT 4 is 10x smarter than 3.5 in just a matter of months, and without many, many changes. Now, that basically means ChatGPT 5 could be within a few months, okay? Or GPT in general, the transformers in general, if they continue at that pace, if it's 10x, then an IQ of 1600. Just imagine the difference between the IQ of the dumbest person on the planet in the 70s and the IQ of Einstein. When Einstein attempts to explain relativity, the typical response is, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? If something is 10x Einstein, we will have no idea what it's talking about. This is just around the corner. It could be a few months away. And when we get to that point, that is a true singularity. True singularity, not yet in the... when we talk about AI, a lot of people fear the existential risk. Those machines will become Skynet and Robocop, and that's not what I fear at all. Those are probabilities. They could happen, but the immediate risks are so much higher. The immediate risks are 3-4 years away. The immediate realities of challenges are so much bigger. Okay?
Think about it. With a 1600 IQ, what could it possibly come up with? It can invent things that we would never think of. It can learn things that we currently think it won't be able to do. And then next thing you know, we're screwed all over again. Now, there's the doomsday scenarios like Skynet from Terminator, or the Matrix movies, or any other science fiction movie where the AI's got out of control. Battlestar Galactica. Hell, even Dune has a story in its lore where they actually banned the use of AI in that cinematic universe. And they had a legit reason. They went to war with it, barely won, you know? In the Matrix, humanity lost severely. Terminator, 3 billion people had to die in order for them to figure that out. It's like it never ends well. And the only time we actually have any true optimism is in our world, real world type of situations. But when we look at our real world, a lot of people are losing their jobs. And let's not get it twisted. Just because the people who are the engineers or the white collar workers who are destined to lose their jobs to AI, it's not just those jobs that are being lost to AI. It's the jobs that those jobs support. You know, like the baristas, you know, you go and grab your coffee. Those are white collar workers doing that. Sometimes blue collar workers, that's true. But a lot of white collar workers are stopping at Dunkin' Donuts, stopping at Starbucks or their local coffee shop for their coffee, or their, you know, Panera Breads and things like that for their coffees and their pastries. What happens when they stop going to those stores? Now the people at those stores stop being able to have a job because there's no money coming in, right?
It's shocking, isn't it? But nobody's talking about it, right? I have good news to start, because we don't want to just, you know, talk about the doom side. In the way you describe it, there is actually an interesting element that rarely is spoken about, right? All of the productivity gains mean nothing if there is no consumer purchasing power to buy it, right? Because at the end of the day, if you take all of the wealth and concentrate it in the hands of, you know, a very few, they'll buy Ferraris only, they're not going to buy Fiats, right? And accordingly, there is no business to create anything at all. So for AI to exist and do the work, someone has to have the purchasing power to buy this. So if you take the US economy, I don't remember last year, but it's regularly around 62% is consumption. It's not production that creates the GDP. And so if you take away the 62%, you take away the entire economy. And so you have to understand that the loss of jobs is going to have to be resolved somehow. Purpose and meaning and these are interesting topics that are philosophical we can talk about. But from an economic point of view, okay, you have to keep people alive. Otherwise, you have no reason to compete, right? You have no reason to create or produce. So there is good news there. The issue here is that it doesn't take a lot of AI intelligence to describe that. To a normal economist with a simple economics degree will tell you that you need the consumption side.
Let's talk about who's going to benefit from this. A lot of the tech oligarchs, a lot of the tech bros, a lot of the people who already have money to invest in these tech, these AI situations, these AI companies. Those people are going to be the people who immediately benefit. The people who are working regular jobs, the blue collar, white collar. Actually, blue collar workers. Let's talk about that for a second. Blue collar workers. Well, they're going to be largely protected against AI for a while. A lot of the things that blue collar workers do, like mining, plumbers, electricians, HVAC gentlemen, airplane mechanics, car mechanics. Those people who are in those types of professions, guess what? It's very hard to automate that stuff. Very hard. But if you're an accountant, I think that's pretty, that's going to be drastically reduced or eliminated entirely. Lawyers, I mean, what's the point of having a lawyer if the law is right there, you read it, and that's it? There's no interpreting the law. There's just, that's it, the law. So we got a serious situation coming up right now. So I would say that a lot of the blue collar workers, which, a lot of blue collar workers for a long time, they were kind of looked down upon by the white collar workers a lot. Especially the people who have been in the IT field, the web developers, the coders. I mean, like I said before, AI is writing its own code, and in some cases writing better code than humans are. It's kind of crazy. But a lot of the tech bros who already own stock in these companies, who own the companies, who run the companies, really, really highly specialized jobs. Like, I just found out about this one, prompt engineers, which makes sense that there is a job opening for that because we have ChatGPT, we have Grok, and whatever other, VO3, by Google. Those types of things require very specific prompts in order to be able to get exactly what you want, such as photos, graphics, and videos and things as such. So a prompt engineer is actually going to become pretty needed in the future, in the immediate future. But who's to say that after a while, once humans, really really add all the data that AI needs, AI won't just take that job too, So the CEOs, people who invested in these countries, these companies, these companies act more like countries, to be honest. But the people who invested in these companies, again, the CEOs who run it, they're going to be the main ones who benefit from this. And I just hope that you're invested in it and not just, a person that just has a job. Because if you just have a job right now, you're at high risk, especially if you're not in the blue collar field.
Guaranteed at this point to have effectively models that are capable of automating any white collar job by like 27, 28 or near guaranteed end of decade.
So there is one use for AI that I actually think is actually a really good thing. And that's the robo-taxis and, driving buses and things like that. Even though one of the main professions in the world is driving, that's gonna hurt a lot of people. However, there's a safety situation when it comes to that. But I don't want to see a lot of governments go out of their way to try to make it so you can't drive as a person. I don't think that's cool. I think if you want to drive your own car, you should be able to drive your own car. Hell, if you want to have a taxi business and you want to drive that taxi yourself, you should be able to do that. Why should it be a situation where a government comes into place and says, you can't drive anymore? You can't drive anymore and you can't drive anymore, safety. And it's like, no. Okay, there's plenty of situations where human beings can drive and not have a problem. There are situations where, a robo-taxi might be able to be better at it. Late night driving, that's cool. If you're coming from an evening out and you've been drinking, that makes sense too. Get inside a robo-taxi, keep the road safe. I understand that. But I just don't want to see a law go into place from our governments to restrict driving. I don't think that'll be a good thing. But unfortunately, because our governments are who they are and want to have control over everything, I think they might just try that. But thankfully, there'll be people like me that will be against that and try to fight that as hard as we can to keep it from happening.
Driverless taxis could be coming to New York City. Waymo, an autonomous driving company, announced today their vehicles are coming back to New York next month for testing. The company says they will operate their vehicles with a driver behind the wheel while the city reviews their permit application. State law would need to change to allow for self-driving taxis on city streets.
Wow. So, in closing, yes, there's some pros, there's some cons. In a lot of cases, there are a lot more cons than pros, at least from what I can see right now. And especially in the short term, maybe in the longer term, once AI really grabs a grip of our civilization, in the short term, it's definitely going to be a whole lot of disruption, a whole lot of suffering. But maybe, just maybe, it'll be for the best. Fingers crossed, I guess.